Hey everyone, you're listening to Party Time, My Golf Story with Kevin Walsh and whatever special guest he has today. You can check me out on episode 9 of the podcast. Today I'm wearing Grayson clothes while I'm out practicing because I believe in look good, play good. And follow me on Instagram, Sophia Warren Golf, and hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
It's Party Time, My Golf Story, brought to you by Party Drinks. Classically designed golf drinks for golfers by golfers. And the golf real estate pros Gene Walsh and Vince Visicaro. For your Southwest Florida real estate needs, check them out at suncoastdreams.com. Now here's your host, Kevin Walsh.
Hey everyone, welcome to the program. We have a great guest today. We have Jim McCabe. Jim was a longtime writer for the Boston Globe, for Golfweek, the PGA Tour, and it's kind of interesting how I found him, and I sort of wonder in my heart of hearts why I didn't interview him earlier. But whatever the case, now is the time that we're interviewing him. Two massholes. We're going to have a good conversation about golf going on, he and me, and then he's going to explain kind of the backstory on the long journey he's taken, around 7 miles of golf in Boston. You can hear him saying, "Yep, I'm going to show him to." Let me just show him to you right now. Hang in there, Jim. I'll be right with you. I know you got this story. I know you're eager to tell it. All right, now get out of here for a second. All right. So Jim McCabe is our guest. But the way I figured out that I wanted to interview him again is he wrote a story on one of my dear friends, JP Connolly, who has been a past guest here. And he also talked about JP Connolly's wife, Tara Joy Connolly. See how it all comes together? The world is a small place and golf double shrinks it. And so a story about JP Connolly, a typewriter that was once owned by Ben Hogan, his wife, all the above, that's led me to Jim McCabe. Should have done it earlier, but here we are. All right. So that's the preamble. Hey, before we go any further, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, would you please do so? Because that matters to the bean counters and the nerds at the different listening platforms, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever. Leave a comment. That matters as well. You'd be helping us out by doing that. And please spread the word. It makes a big difference. Big thanks to our title sponsor, Party Drinks. If you're looking for a drink alternative on the golf course, try a Party. For golfers, by golfers, manufactured in Medfield, Mass., but distributed all over the country, and especially in Florida. 2 new customers coming on board, Venice East Golf Club and also Waterford Golf Club in Venice, taking over the Suncoast with Party. Now, if you don't have Party at your golf course and you want it, get in touch with somebody in the beverage and food and beverage department and let them know to call Paradise Craft. Paradise Craft Distributors is the exclusive distributor of Party in the state of Florida. And if your dream is to live in a golf resort community like Lakewood National Golf Club, where this podcast originates from, nobody better than Gene Walsh and Vince Visicaro from suncoastdreams.com. They can get you set up. Folks, it is a buyer's market. So if you want to start the dream a little bit early, or it's time based on the numbers and what you want to do with life, now's a good time to get in touch with Gene or Vince. suncoastdreams.com, Division of Fine Properties in Greater Sarasota. All right, that's the housekeeping part. Here's the man of the hour, Jim McCabe here. That was a long one, man. I got to say hello to you. I need to take a breath.
I know. Bring a lot of words there.
How you doing, buddy? So,
great.
Tell me the story about life, where you grew up, and where you. It's kind of funny, and like true Bostonians will just double over laughing.
Yeah. Well, I tell people all the time, and it's all true. I was born in South Boston, lived on L East 8th Street, and right across the street from what is now and has always been the L Street Tavern. And if you've seen Goodwill Hunting, you know the L Street Tavern. Born, raised there, moved to Quincy, Mass, North Quincy, Mass. And I now live in Milton, and it's like a 7-mile route. And tell people that's where I've gone, 7 miles. But the truth is, it's home. It will always be home. I absolutely love it. I actually don't mind the winters. I'm a coffee drinker, so when it's really crappy out and it's cold, you just sit and drink coffee all day and look out the window and I write. Thankfully, I still write. I write for my own pleasure. I write for generate a little bit of income, but mostly my own pleasure, and to keep my love alive with the game. And the most the most gratifying thing I've ever got from golf are the friendships. And Kevin, you're a perfect example. It's kind of, you'd be walking down the street, and or let's say, I walked in a golf shop last night and to actually buy my wife a push cart, push, not pull. Bought her a push cart, and it was about a 45-minute. I mean, we bought the thing in 5 minutes, and we left 45 minutes later because the guy who fixed the clubs came down to shoot the breeze, and we talked about golf. He asked about my son. Well, here's my, I have 2 boys, and my younger guy is in the business, not far from you, at a place called Ocean Reef. He's the head professional down there, and he's kind of, and I'm kind of rejuvenated. I've always had a love of golf, but through him, I enjoy it more than ever because he can play, I can't. One of probably the most beneficial thing I ever did when he decided he wanted to play golf, I said, well, you should learn how to play because, myself and all my friends at age 16, 17, 18, we decided we're going to play golf. We had no idea how to play. So it is a very small world. I mean, you just can get with the internet, I get a call from the clear blue from a kid I grew up with. And next thing I know, he's an avid follower of my power fades, and he's always dumping great
content. Yeah. Does he think he has like great content for you and everything?
Well, he's pretty funny that he will say, hey, I saw you wrote a thing about pictures and taking photographs on a golf course. I said, yeah, I'm just fascinated. I'm innately curious about all things, and I love the little things. And I'll see a picture. So I took a picture of I ran a picture that I had taken, and I wrote a column about how good golf course pictures and pictures of signs. And so he and I now share pictures, and that's gotten to be, a cool association. Listen, I thought up until I was about 16, I was absolutely no brainer that I was going to play, maybe not Major League Baseball, but I'd play high college baseball, and baseball was my life. I loved it until I realized, I was a 5-foot second baseman who couldn't hit great. I could hit. I could actually hit a curveball, but I couldn't hit the good hard stuff. And oh, by the way, people would say, "Man, Jimmy, you go to your left great." And I said, "That's because I can't backhand a ball, so up in the hole." So I played up the middle, and anything to my left was, that was fine. Just I'm not going to let anything go up the middle because I can't backhand anything. But when I realized baseball wasn't in the cards, I said, this golf it just hit me one day, in college. I think it was.
Well, yeah. How did that happen? How does golf just hit you?
Well, my dad bought clubs for me when I was 16, but he wasn't a golfer. He loved watching on TV. That was kind of our thing. We would watch golf, and he was a big Arnold Palmer guy. I said, my dad's right. I'll go with Arnold Palmer too. But I had the clubs, and I'd use them occasionally. But then when I got to college, it's a sophomore year, and I'm at North Adams State College, and it's as far away from Boston as you can get and still live in Massachusetts. It's way up in the northwest corner. 20 minutes from New York, 15 minutes from Vermont. And my guy who lived next door to me, and I still play golf with him occasionally, Michael Lefty Laspina, calls me, he says, you get your clubs, right? I said, yeah. He goes, I got a car, you got clubs, I got clubs, let's go. And that's when it hit me that, that, man, this college life is awesome. I can take the whole day off. And I don't know, my mother and my father here to scream at me. And if I don't go, the professor doesn't care. It's just going to impact my mark. And we went to play a place called Wabika Springs. I think it's in Williamstown. And it was, I think it was early May. So it was like right before final exams. And we played 18 holes and we were done. It was 11:30 in the morning. We went out at 7. We just flew. And we walked. And then Lefty looked at me and goes, "You want to play 18 more?" I said, "Yeah, why not?" So we rented a cart. We played 18 more. "You want to play again?" I said, "Well, we got room for 9 holes." We played 45 holes. And we just kept going, we weren't that good. He was could hit it pretty good. I wasn't. I from the get go, I've never been long, but I would always keep in play, banging around, score. It was not crucial what we shot. I don't care. What was crucial was how many balls do I have left, and I'd always start with about 10 balls, maybe a dozen, but. I'd always keep them in the bag and just go. We'd just go and, never had golf gloves. Or if we had one, we was like had holes in it and stuff like that. And I still remember that day. And when I would play with Michael and Lefty and we talk about it, we say that, and I tell him that was the day I said, this is it. I want this as part of my life. And I played more and more when I'd come home summers. We always played Ponky. And if you live up in this area, all you got to say is Ponky, and the eyebrows get raised. Everyone laughs. Everyone knows the deal with Ponky.
Oh, no. For those that don't know,
it is.
All right. Just for the outsiders, initiate us.
It is 36 holes, and we'll be generous right off the top. We say, man, it's got great bones. it's all there. Unfortunately, it is owned by some of the worst people in the world because they're government, politicians, could care less about it. It's a place to just put those people down working at Ponky to get 5-6 more years. And no one spends the money to take care of it. I mean, taking care of a golf course is not.
It's expensive and a lot of work, and there might be some people that work for the government that don't want to work all that.
They don't. Yeah, they want to punch in the hours. They don't want to work. Yeah. They don't want to get on a mower and cut the rough down a consistent. So anyway, but Ponky there's the number one course. There's a good chance it could hold the state open. It really could. It's got great bones, good layout. Number one is just, what are you going to say? I haven't played there in a few years. I got on the range once in a while.
It's just in awful shape. Everybody knows
horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible.
But that kind of adds to its charm in some ways. It's just like
if you were a golf enthusiast and you played, but even if you were, and I never got the level to play stadiums and stuff like that, but they used to host in this area the CYO Championship. And when you look at the list of names, now it's local, I understand. Everyone played it. Everybody. You'd be hard pressed to find a really good, passionate golfer from this part of the world who didn't play a Ponky at one time.
Of course.
We all played Ponky, number one, number two. We all knew it still has one of the. I wish we still had them, the spiral metal rack that you get up there. And my ball of choice, if I was, we had 3 or 4 players, and you would always want to go down there with 4 players. Because God forbid if you were 2, you never knew who you would get. You could get. Nowadays, I look at it as I embrace playing with people I've never met before. But back then, you're a kid. You're nervous as hell. Yeah, that first shot was the most nerve wracking. They can talk about hitting the first shot at at Marion, has real tight quarters for the first hole. I said, there's nothing compared to Ponky when you're hitting your first shot.
Really? Oh
Well,
my God.
yeah, because you're a kid, you're a young kid, and you don't, you're not quite sure how to play the game. You think you got, I never
And
knew
you
you had
and you
14
could
balls.
be teeing it up with somebody from the Winter Hill gang, and
Yeah, you could
just-
be, what do you do for work? And they just look at you and like that's none of your business. But you're hitting that tee shot, and you just don't want everybody to laugh like hell at you, So okay, let's just get this out there, and everybody played it, and it was classic. But they had the spiral thing and the metal thing, and you'd put your ball in it to go around. The starter would come up, and usually a crusty old guy that wanted nothing to do with his job, but he'll do it, and he would just pull the ball out that got to the bottom, and he'd pull it out, and he'd yell out, "Well, my ball of choice always was the club special." It had a red dot on it, and
yeah, the old Acushnet
yeah,
company.
that was the thing, and the way we would play. And I wasn't the only one. We all, because I learned this from, more seasoned golfers, the 17-year-old kids, the 18-year-old kids. Keep a couple balls in your pocket. Which ball you're like, I love the club special. Okay, good. Yeah. Don't that hit that off the tee because you could lose it. And don't ever use it around water. So you'd have like 3 balls in your pocket and screw the 1 ball rule. We used whatever we had. And then I'd get closer to the green and the club special would come into play. And that was my ball rack ball. And I honestly and truly, I understand. I play a lot. I'm a member of the private club. I play a lot of private clubs, and I get it. And we all want that experience, and it's great.
But you need a place that grounds you, like
You do.
Ponky, and that's Boston's version of it. Cobb's Creek in Philadelphia, where I grew up primarily, it is that everybody will have played that because one of the biggest junior golf tournaments in the city always went through the private clubs, but it always went through Cobb's Creek. It just a gritty place, and we all have great memories of it. Fresno, California, where I lived before, has Riverside Golf Club.
Right.
And it hosted the city champion. And everybody loved coming to Riverside because it was just, you could connect on it. You could enjoy it, but you also had plenty of things to bitch about if it didn't go well. And whoever you're bitching to, they're going to bitch right back,
Yeah.
And that was the beauty of it. That's Ponky. That's Ponky for the, for those that know, if you don't know now,
Rick Riley, what you need to know, all you need to say, Rick Riley was so infatuated. He wrote a book, and it was based on Ponky, and he made up the characters, but the characters he made up were real people, and because that's what you had at Ponky. These were real people, and some of them, there were a lot of them could really, really play, and if you were playing competitively, wanted to play competitively, there was no place that made you suck it up and quit your bitching and moaning. If you're going to sign your name at the end of this round, you just take the bad with the good. And there was a lot of bad about it, but the good was you saw a picture of life in the golf community that would stick with you forever.
Yes, and that's what I like about that. Speaking of sticking with you forever, just stories that stick in your soul. The one that you wrote about on powerfades.com that included my buddy JP Connolly and Ben Hogan's old typewriter, that really brought me back. Why don't you tell the story for those that haven't seen it? But I would encourage our listeners and viewers to look it up on powerfades.com because it's a beauty. Why don't you give us the Cliff's Notes?
All the credit has to go, first of all, to Tara. I've known Tara Joy before she was Tara Joy Conley. I've known Tara Joy for a long, long time. And 4 years ago when, I thought I was going to get out of the business and stop writing about golf, I decided, I left the PGA Tour.com, and I said, you know what? I'm not ready to stop writing. And I look at my notebooks and I said, okay, I have a idea. What I want to write is golf, people in golf, because there are thousands that I've met and I love, and they all have stories. So that's what I do with Power Fades. You're not going to Power Fades to read about the war between the PGA Tour and LIV. Everyone else wants to pontificate. I don't. Tara Joy sees me, and I walked in the State Golf House, dedicated a room to the great Pat Bradley. And I walked in. Tara Joy was like one of the first ones I saw. And she's with JP, and he goes, Jimmy, I got a story for you. You'll love it. Told me the story in like 3 minutes. Involves a typewriter. JP, her husband, he's a longtime golf professional, great genes, great pedigree. He's truly one of the best in his business. Well, JP loves to write a note. Some people text, hey, thanks for the round of golf. And, it does a job and everything. Some people like to send an email. JP likes to physically write a note. In his handwriting, like a lot of us, over the years, it's not that great. So I'm going to get a typewriter. I have a typewriter. I have an old Royal 65 or whatever it was. He brings it in this shop in Boston, and every city has these, the shoe repairman, the tailor, the craftsmen, the people, the men and women of their era who had great crafts. He finds a guy that still fixes typewriters. And the guy says, well, yeah, I can fix it and everything. Well, and he leaves it. And JP writes him a note. It says, thanks for fixing my typewriter, blah, blah, blah. And on the business card, JP Conley, head golf professional, Catanset. Catanset, one of the premier clubs not in the state, not in Northeast, in the world. I mean, it's really,
yeah. If you get an invitation to play Catanset,
yeah, it's
pick it up.
Yeah,
just go, drop everything.
There you go. And so JP, he sees that. Now the gentleman who fixed typewriters named Tom Furrier, Furrier. Too many R's. And I told him, you get too many R's in here because we don't use the R up here in Boston.
No. Stop on that for a sec. You do use the R's. Now, for somebody that you just pronounce them differently, you don't drop them. You just call an R an R.
An R.
Right? So for those people that think that Bostonians and Massholes drop their R's, no, they just pronounce them differently.
Yeah, we have a better pronunciation of them. So Tom, the typewriter salesman, gets back to JP and says, they start a conversation about golf, and there is golf language all its own. And he's talking, JP happens to mention that his hero in golf is still Ben Hogan. He reads about him all the time, has the books, a lot of books on Hogan, knows the aura of Hogan, the mystique. And Tom says, well, that's pretty cool. I have Ben Hogan's typewriter that, he used to use. Ben Hogan actually, he would have a ghostwriter, but he took the time to write his own stuff. And I think his book, Power Golf, is Ben's writing. It was probably cleaned up by a ghostwriter, but it is what it is. Ben used to write newspaper series. Anyways, JP's fascinated, and that goes to as far as, okay, fine. And JP invites this Tom Furrier to play Catanset. And Tom knows Catanset, has never been there, is ecstatic, totally appreciative of the round of golf. And he's at the end of it, you're going to do what you golfers do. You're going to go in for a cold drink. And Tom says, no, first, JP, I got you a gift. And he brings out this big, I don't know, suitcase, small suitcase. And JP looks and he goes, "Is that what I think it is?" And Tom said, "Geez, I don't know. Let's open it up." And he opens it up, and the brand that they had was an Underwood typewriter. There were other models, obvious time. Royal was a big one. Corona was a big one. And JP now has in his possession the typewriter and uses it and writes his notes. And this is all from Tara Joy looking at me and said, "Jimmy, you'll love this story." And
I totally get it. I mean, this is, and that's the thing about golf, because it's built around a social network. And, and I look at, it makes me laugh a little bit sometimes when I talk to people that are just starting in golf and don't really have their established network of buddies to go playing golf with. And they're like, "Yeah, I just don't like playing with strangers." I'm like, you have to approach it differently and say, this is an opportunity to make friends. Now, that might be easier for me to say because I played so much competitive golf. And a lot of times, whoever I was competing against, I didn't know them at the start. But I felt like at the end, I certainly did, because I just spent 4 hours with them, and that's the brick by brick that you kind of build the foundation of a golf network.
You do, and people, people, I think ask me, okay, so for at least the last 15 years of I worked at the Boston Globe from 1985 to 2008, 23 years. Started, when I started as an editor, and because if you went in at the Globe at that time and wanted to write, you just looked around the room and said, "Holy good Lord, I got Hall of Fame writers here." You were very contentious to be there, and I was honored. I was privileged to be there. But for about 15 years of my life, writing for the Boston Globe was my life. It was 24/7. I loved golf with a passion. And when I went to Golfweek, it's a dedicated, crazy, it's golf. It's golf. And I did that. And when I stepped aside and I said, okay, life has moved on. I'm at that age. I'm not traveling 24 weeks a year, 23 weeks a year, covering pro golf. People say, "Do you miss it?" I said, actually, no. I love golf even more than ever. And people say, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "Well, here's the thing. For 20 plus years, all I was focused on was the PGA Tour. I, lived and breathed it. And, I would also cover professional women's golf, the good amateur tournaments, but I covered elite golf nationally and made some beautiful international trips. And I said, you know what? I'm stepping back, and I realized I started playing more with a local golf around here. Started playing, reconnected with all my friends from the Milton Hoosier Club, playing local golf, thinking nothing of, hey, let's go play Higher Than Links in Truro. It's about a 2.5 hour ride. Yeah, let's go. 9-holer. Yeah, let's go. And what hit me was, good Lord, the PGA Tour isn't golf. That's a part of golf. It's an elite level, but there's a whole world of golf out there. And it just hit me that there were so many stories. Every time I turn around, there's finally, after years of not going there and hearing about it, I made my first foray to Bandon Dunes and found, oh my God, this is the heaven that they've talked about. It is as advertised. It's awesome. And within a day or two, I had 2, 3, 4 stories that I said, someone's got to write these stories, and some of them have been written. But when I did Power Fades, and when I decided to do Power Fades, I think it was the spring of 2001. We're coming out of COVID, and I'm reconnecting with kids I know that had played amateur golf that were now on the Corn Ferry Tour, and listen to their stories. I'm writing about the people I met at Bandon Dunes, the club pro up there who will take a putter and beat your ass. He'll play with a putter and shoot in the 80s. And this is I witnessed it at the little if you've been to Bandon Dunes, the preserve is 13 holes, a par 3 that might be the coolest 13 holes up on the up at Bandon Dunes. I met people in Scotland that just had incredibly cool, flavorful stories, and I found out there is just a world. I think I always knew, but I couldn't believe how expansive the world of golf is with people. And
there are good stories all around us, and the connections. I like to say the world is small because of electronic media. Golf shrinks it in certain places, double shrink it. You talked about J.P. Connolly and the typewriter that once belonged to Ben Hogan, as told by JP's wife. And there's a story right there. So here's a story for you. I told you this off the air, but I'll tell it to everybody else. So I caddied for a guy yesterday who used to work at Golfweek. I said, well, that's interesting because I'm having Jim McCabe on my podcast tomorrow. But stuff like that happens all the time. There are good stories all around you. Somebody says, hey, you ought to talk to this guy, the pro that'll beat your ass with a putter. Just everybody around you is interesting. And that's how I look at life in golf and selection of guests. Are you interesting? I believe you are, and I will convince you of that and come on my program and talk about it. So is Party Time My Golf Story kind of like just the podcast version of what Power Fades is?
Yeah. Well, you get it. I mean, I wrote a couple weeks ago that, there's a golf, people get it, and I know my wife will be with me, and all of a sudden I go to the annual We Met banquet, and there's 1,600 people in the room, and my wife's like, are you going to say hi to everyone? I said, well, no, but most of them, you see a face, you connect to them. Where have you been? How you doing? And I saw you went here. What'd you think of that course? I said, we talk golf courses, and we talk, the new equipment coming out, and we talk people that we haven't seen for a while. Have you caught up with him? And it is, and I'm not embarrassed, and I don't feel guilty about any of it. I think you and I talk about golf guilt. I never have golf guilt. I don't. It is a life. It's a culture. And to me, it's the essence of what I love to do and love to be around. And the stories are endless. And I got to be honest with you. People will remind me about a story I wrote. I could go on and on, but I was at the National PGA Seniors. They played at Congressional, and Club Pro comes in, having shot a very nice round, and he's talking in his interview. He happened to mention that his caddy, Jim Hackenberg. I just listened to him.
Okay, stop.
I know that guy.
Jim Hackenberg, the inventor of the Orange Whip.
Yes.
Past guest here.
Oh, my God.
Was introduced to me by one of my caddy buddies who caddied with him on Martha's Vineyard. All right. Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. See how this all comes together? Everybody knows everybody. You're just one person removed.
No, and it was. And I know this Jack. I know this Jim Hackenberg. And I asked him, explain to me quickly who Jim. Oh, well, he invented the Orange Whip. And then it all just came to. I said, wait a minute. He used to be a pro at Edgartown, 9-hole course on Martha's Vineyard. Delightful. Really, really fun place. And he said, yeah, you know him? And I said, well, I wouldn't say I know him. And now I can sit here and tell him, because I wrote about him in Power Fades and the Orange Whip. I suspect everyone knows what the orange whip is. It blew me away. And then he and I were talking, and he connected my name. He said, I used to read you all the time in the Boston Globe. And, I get that a lot. And, sometimes I take it for granted. And then I'll say, not in an ego way, but I said, man, that's cool. I did. Yes. I go back and I said, yeah, I wrote a lot for the Boston Globe, and I attracted a following and people that I really, really, respect to this day and still forever will. And when this guy says, yeah, I remember you wrote for the Boston Globe. And I said, yeah. And I said, I wrote a bio of a guy from Edgartown Golf Club one day. And he said, Tony Jackson. And I said, yeah, you know him? He goes, yeah, I'm the one that told him. And a quick story with him was he was a fisherman, worked in the Martha's Vineyard. And if you work in the Martha's Vineyard, you're on an island. Chances are you work somewhat associated with the water. And this gentleman loved to play golf, but he had a job, and his job was to go in the water, 12 months a year, and fix piers. And piers are important to the fishermen, to the boaters. So it's a full-time job, fixing piers. He had long dreadlocks, loved golf, and Jim Hackenberg said, you ought to play in the state mid-am. And he said, what? The state mid-am. You're a good player. Well, how do I do that? You got to get in a qualifier. Hey, there's one at Captain's Golf Course. You got to take a ferry over to the main island. Kid goes, okay.
Captain's in Brewster. Yeah, I've played some golf there. That was my Cape Cod experience golfing. Keep going.
Tony Jackson, the golfer with the long dreadlocks, has his brother get over. Well, the one thing they get over. They went over like a Sunday night. I think it was a Monday qualifier, or a Monday night. They went over Tuesday or whatever. They get over there. They don't have really the means to get a hotel. That's all right. He goes out and practices on the golf course, chips putts, walks it, gets feel for it. Then his and brother, they're just guys from the island, and they said, what the hell? Well, they just camped out, and they slept in a bunker. So next morning, and the sprinklers come on, and Tony Jackson goes out and shoots 70. I think he's medalist. I know he's medalist. I think it was 70. Now, I'm not there. I'm not covering that one. But I get a call because this is, again, the golf community, the people, a gentleman named Cobb Carlson. Cobb is just awesome, loves golf like so many of us. He said, Jimmy, I got a story for you. And tells me the story. Guy with dreadlocks, no one's ever heard of him. All the amateurs know each other. No one knows this guy. He said, I played with this guy. He didn't miss the club. He didn't miss the sweet spot all day. He just, golfed his golf ball. And Jim Hackenberg looked at me, and when he said that to me, I said, wait a minute, I wrote that story. He goes, I know you did. It was a great story. It's still up in the clubhouse at Edgartown Golf Club. And so when you start tying all the, Jim Hackenberg is from, I believe, the Dakotas.
He is.
Yeah.
He is. And then he went to Oregon State University.
And he went to Arizona State, and when Mickelson and then
transferred. So he loves orange for those reasons.
Yes.
And when I interviewed him on the podcast, he was dressed in like orange and black. He was almost dressed like the orange whip. If you can turn that into like coveralls or whatever, that's how he was dressed. He looked like he was on a NASCAR crew, and he was fantastic.
He was
story after story after story, because he's that kind of person. Because golf's that kind of game.
Yeah. And
then the Martha's Vineyard connection. Is anybody that spent any appreciable time there has multiple stories to tell.
Correct. And this is why, if people say, I'll just, to golf people, I'd say, you've been to me and did you meet the shoe? Well, yes. met the shoe, and he's the greeter. He's the mayor of Bandon Dunes. And his life story is tremendous. And he's called the shoe because the guy from Golfweek years ago looked at him and goes, "Man, you look like Billy Shoemaker, the jockey." And he's the shoe to this day. And this is golf. You just mention his shoe. You don't even give his real name. People, oh, I know, I met the shoe, and there are all kinds of pictures. The shoe. When you're around people that really, really know the game, and you find out how wide and how expansive and how passionate that community is, it's the most comforting part of my life. I mean, there's real life problems that you always have, but when you get, okay, I'm just gonna talk about golf for a while, and all your troubles seem to go away.
It's a safe place. Before we knew what safe place meant in today's word, and now we treat that as a pejorative. Golf was always the safe place. But you could go to Ponky and mix it up and gamble and drink a little bit. There were exceptions to that rule.
Yeah, there are. There are some bumps on the road in the golf world, but it's funny. I'm sure you've had it. I probably get it a little more than most people, but I know a lot of my friends get the same thing. When you finish playing golf, you got to come back. You got to get back. Here's my business card. Here's my email. I do a pretty good job. I'm not JP Conley. I don't get on a typewriter. My only typewriter was an electric typewriter, and there's no romanticism with an electric typewriter. It's got to be but JP will write notes, and I've seen gentlemen over the years, some women over the years, golf people who have done an incredible job of writing notes and thanking, they're the ones that did me the huge favor. They gave me their time. There's a woman at Paso Tiempo who is just so passionate about Marion Hollins, and she gave me Marion Hollins' life story, and I wrote that one time in Power Fades, and she wrote me this beautiful note later, and I said, I got to do more of that, and because there are so many people you'll go along the line and that you've met through golf. My friends at the Mets section down in New York, their association does a fantastic job of keeping people connected through golf. But yeah, it's when I'm in the confines of the golf, we have our own language, we have our own geography, we don't have our own sense of what's important. We have these silly arguments and debates we could, carry on forever. But, what do you like better? What course do you like? Is it the Open Championship or is it the British Open? I just laugh. I said,
don't get me started on that. It's the British Open for Americans. It's the Open Championship for Europeans, period. Okay, I'm ending that debate right now. Okay.
Well, it's not. It's I bring out. I'll call it the Open Championship. This and that, but it is the British Open. And then when you're looking back in the archives, I'm a newspapers.com fanatic, and I read old time golf writing, and guess what it was called by the British newspapers, by the papers in London and all over the UK. It was always the British Open.
Okay, so that's settled.
That's settled.
That's settled. Jim McCabe is our guest here on Party Time, My Golf Story, former writer for the Boston Globe, Golfweek, and also PGA Tour.com. Fellow masshole.
Yep.
So I lived in Mass for 11 years. I mean, is that a violation that I refer to myself as a masshole? Or
no.
Okay.
No.
Okay. That's good enough.
It isn't a length of time. It's the depth to which you connect yourself to Massachusetts.
Perfect. Okay. I feel a lot better because a couple people have called me out on that, and then I wanted to fight them. and now I want to fight him again, like in good conscience. Maybe we'll set it up at Ponky. 9 holes in a fight.
Yo, 9 holes.
After that, Jim, do you got any good Arnold or Jack stories? Tell me a good story that just always brings the house down.
My Arnold story is kind of secondhand, but it was kind of legend of Arnold. Arnold is such a people person, and one of his people was telling us the story. Two quick ones, because he was in golf course design, but let's face it, he was a golfer, and the design came along because you've had a business, and he was going on and on about the links course and and there, and he was naming, I remember that third hole, and when I won the Open there, and this and that, and he was describing it, and they said, no, Arnold, you wanted Troon. That's in Scotland. He was going on about this course, one of the links courses in England or something, but he had the wrong course. But I do remember watching him one day, and it was legit. And Sam, his grandson, was playing, and he was going along signing autographs. And Arnold just stood in back, and we were just sitting there talking with Arnold, because Arnold was so fantastic. You didn't interview Arnold. You just got in a conversation with him about stuff. And he's sitting going on and going on. And all of a sudden he looks up, pardon me, boys. He reaches in. Sam had just signed an autograph, probably his 30th autograph. And Arnold reaches in and takes the program that Sam had signed and gives it back to his grandson and goes, sign your name that she can read it. And I thought it was vintage Arnold. And,
yes.
if you have Arnold Palmer's autograph, and I think 3 or 4 million of us do, it was much like Ted Williams. Ted Williams, I always thought Ted Williams had the greatest autograph, the way he signed his name. Ted Williams, perfectly legible. Arnold was right there. That's my Arnold story. My Jack story is again, it's personal. Is the Jack captain the 2003 President's Cup? That's it's famous for. It ended in a tie, and the President's Cup it's not the Ryder Cup, but it's still very competitive, very passionate about it. They're in South Africa. The match ends up tied. Well, they don't want to say, no, give it to the U.S. because they won the 2 years prior. So they had a playoff system, and it was kind of like way too much pressure. All of a sudden, best player from each team is going to go out head to head, and that's Tiger Woods and Ernie Els. Gary Player and Jack are the captains. Long story short, they played like 3 extra holes. Now it's dark. Still tied. Some great golf, but it's still tied. And the captains get together and they say, that's it. We're going to end it in a tie. Well, there was some really raging criticisms of that. And I remember reading them. I said, oh my God, this is not the Masters. This is not the British Open Championship. This is not the U.S. Open Championship. This is golf. It's a team golf event. I thought ending in a tie was perfect. So I disagreed with all the criticism. I wrote something in the Boston Globe. And about a week later, I got speaking of typewriters and notes, it's a note from Jack. And there aren't a lot of things I have framed in my house. I do have my Adam Scott photo, the Masters, in a Rory McIlroy photo.
Yeah, I see it right behind you.
Yeah.
I was wondering whether we were going to talk about that, but you just referred to it.
Yeah, so. Well, Adam is, listen, we don't cheer in the press box. That's all fine and all that's good. You're right, the story would happen. But Adam has been, for as long as I've watched him play, 24 years now or so, I've always been partial to him. I love the way he plays. Great person. That's him winning the Masters, and below him is Rory. It was a Golfweek cover, and I wrote this story out of Quail Hollow when he shot 62. He was 2010, and he was flamboyant. He was young. He was cool. big moppy hair. And when he won, I thought it was really cool. And one of those managers at the time, got him to sign it for me. But the only other personal thing I have up and way on the other side of the room is this little letter from Jack, like 4 or 5, about say a strong paragraph, and it was just thanking me for writing that. And it wasn't so much he was giving me credit for writing; it was just the way he talked about the essence of the competition, what it was, and he said, "You understand what we were." What it was all about. Jack is sadly, Jack still is the only one in golf, players wise, I'll call him a player, that understands what a scrum is about, what an interview is about. And his famous, after an interview, you ask him a question and he'll give you an answer, and before the next question begins, Jack will look at it and goes, did you get what you need? And it's so Jack. It's so Jack. And yeah, we worry. I mean, we talk all the time. What happens when we lose Jack? Who are going to help tell the stories? I don't know. Jack his record's impeccable. We could do another whole show someday on why, but I think Jack remains not Tiger. Tiger's in a lot of ways had a cooler career, but Jack's career was. I just tell people all the time, Google it. Go to Jack Nicklaus in the 1970s. Those 10 years, 40 majors. Check out what he did.
Yeah. And he can articulate the stories better than Tiger can. Tiger's just not a good interview because it's not in him. I mean, that's just not who he is, but his golf speaks for itself.
Yes.
But when golf can speak for itself and you have good storytellers just verbally or in print, it keeps those stories alive, and it makes us feel like if we weren't there, somehow we glommed onto it in a good way.
Absolutely. It's still I mean, that's why the Masters is the Masters. You can still see those guys, and you can under a tree you can ask Jack a question in the interview after he hits the honorary starters, and you might think, there's nothing left for him to say, and then he'll tell you a story that he goes, I never told you that one, and it's fantastic. He's got tremendous recall.
That's a gift to golfers. The golf memory. Yeah. There's something about it. It just burns it on the brain. Where competitive golfers, especially, can take you back in many rounds, shot for shot. Where social viewers or spectators cannot remember that at all, but the player can because it's so permanently burned onto their brain.
Right. That's why, Bob Golby passed, and it was from the first Masters I went to in 2000 to the last one I was there. Bob Golby was go-to guy every year. You'd see him under the tree, and you would talk golf stories, and he was the winner of the infamous 68 Masters, and he would tell you the details of that, and then you realize, oh my God, it was lost in yes, DiVincenzo had to take a 4 when he made it 3, and DiVincenzo signed the wrong card and probably should have won the tournament. But he didn't. And what they forget is that meant he still he could have been in a playoff. It would have been a playoff, but because he signed the wrong score, he was one shot out of the playoff. There's no guarantee he was going to win the playoff. But what gets lost in it is the way Golby finished that tournament. He made an eagle at 15. And I remember one day he was telling us the story, and it was just classic of the golfers, their recall, and he remembered who he was playing with, where he was in the fairway, and thinking at the time this would be good. I might, come maybe if DiVincenzo makes a bogey coming in or something. Golfers recall for the good ones is fantastic. It's just, I go on and on. I could sit and listen to guys tell stories that is, and it doesn't have to be the Golbies and the Masters. It could be Paul Harney, who was a very good golfer, won on the PGA Tour, and he would tell me stories about Mass Opens and back in the day when that was a huge tournament.
Yeah, as long as you can tell the story and the people involved in it are interesting, I'll listen to anybody. I'll just talk to somebody in an airport. Station, whatever. I'm like, hey man, you look like an interesting person. Tell me a story. I mean, what would that do? I mean, that would just open up the world to so many possibilities. But I think what you have, and I have it, and a lot of golfers have it, Jim, is a curious soul. And if somebody can fill up and satisfy our curiosity, and we know who they are, it could be Bob Golby, Chichi Rodriguez, great storyteller, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer. I'd say some good ones now. Anytime that Brad Faxon is telling a story, just stop, listen. It'll be worth your time. Paul Azinger, same thing. It's going to take you right there. You're going to feel like you're a part of it. It's time well spent, and you're a good storyteller too.
Well, thank you. I mean, I just do have it. I'm born with it. I'm just.
Well, being Irish probably helps a little bit because you got to have that. You got to stick the landing with the Irish wit, right?
This is the truth.
Stick and move, leave parties. The Irish, I did the Irish exit at a party, neighborhood party. I had to get out. Just I'm gone. Just disappeared. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, someone asked me why. I said, I don't know. I said it may be because we didn't have. We had television, but nothing good. We didn't have the internet. We didn't. So my mother, my father, and their sister-in-laws, brother-in-laws, cousins, or whatever would sit around the table, highballs and talk.
Yeah, well, it's the roots. It's the roots. We didn't have. I mean, going back, and it wasn't all that long ago. We didn't have much. The Irish didn't have much in Boston or New York, where most of my family came through. So we just had each other and our stories, and that was enough. And fortunately, I think some of it's trickled down to me. Hey Jim, let's call it a day. Where can people find you? Like tell me about Power Fades.
Power Fades is just it's a labor of love. I do get very nice sponsorship from Titleist, long time friends with a lot of those people. And it was just my idea that back in 2021, I said, I got the sense of COVID allowed me to see what retirement, full-time retirement was like. And I said, not for me, I got to do something. So I write Power Fades every week. I take a few weeks off. If you go to powerfades.com, it's a free subscription. And I just tell the story every week, and I offer some musings at the end of it, the 9-hole musings. And it's just my way of keeping me connected to golf and the golf I love. And I don't have to be covering the British Open to be involved in golf because there's so many stories. My notebook used to be filled with names, and someday I would say I got to write about this guy and this woman, and that's what I do now. Powerfades.com. Just sign up. It comes via email, and it's fun, and I thoroughly enjoy it. It's a labor of love.
Yeah, I could tell. I could tell in your voice, and I can see it in your writing. All right, Jim. At some point, we got to make some golf arrangements so we can play together.
You got it, Kevin.
In the meantime, follow Jim on powerfades.com. get the subscription because he's just got great stories, an endless flow of stories coming to him. Big thanks as we wrap up here to our title sponsor, Party Sport or Party Drinks. If you're looking for a drink alternative on the golf course, try Party. For golfers, by golfers, and by the way, manufacturer of Medfield, Mass. And if your dream is to live on a golf real estate, if you have some golf real estate needs and your dream is to live in a golf resort community like Lakewood National Golf Club in the greater Sarasota area, nobody better than the golf real estate pros, Vince Fizzicaro and Gene Walsh from suncoastdreams.com, a division of Fine Properties. For Jim McCabe, I'm Kevin Walsh. We'll see you again next time on Party Time, My Golf Story.
Thanks, Kevin.
You've been listening to It's Party Time, My Golf Story, brought to you by Party Drinks. Classically designed golf drinks for golfers by golfers, and the golf real estate pros Gene Walsh and Vince Fizzicaro. For your Southwest Florida real estate needs, check them out at suncoastdreams.com or call 941-220-4000.